Look, people guessing, you have guessed.
There's a reason it's number one, right?
Yeah, there is a reason it is number one. So without further ado, let's reveal Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know's number one court case of 2022. And it is Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. Peter, why?
So we've seen, I saw some of the negative comments on your Twitter before saying a hissy fit between celebrities. People were like, I can't believe people cared about this case, et cetera, et cetera. Why is it number one on your list? Why would a lawyer pick this? This is bad form. I understand that, and that's fine, and everybody's entitled to their opinion, and that's perfectly fine. But that's why you asked me about the criteria for the list.
Yep.
And the significance and the impact and the interest has never been matched since, in the case I can remember, people said O.J. Simpson, but this to me, still now, after we've had Darrell Brooks, Reeves, whatever the cases are that have happened, none of them came close to Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. And still, people are interested in the appellate process. They want to look at appellate briefs. There's nothing more boring than reading an appellate brief, and people just can't get enough because they're learning so much about the legal process. This, to me, has changed the way we look at defamation. Defamation is such a difficult case to win, and Johnny Depp went and he won. This was something that I think the Me Too movement was great and helped a lot of people get a voice that never had it and never had an opportunity to have it before. But there were also people that got wrongfully caught up in that net and in that web. And we saw about that. We saw about how men can be victims of domestic violence too. We saw about how famous people's lives can be affected by negative accusations and people being held accountable to negative accusations if in fact the jury finds that they believe that person lied. We got to watch them testify with our own eyes and determine and be the jury through the camera on who do you believe? Who do you think is telling the truth? And there were people on every political side, from every background, from every community. My polls, and I know yours because I came on your show, were 98, 99% in agreement with the jury that they believed Johnny Depp and not Amber Heard. And as a community, that was significant. And to me, a lot was learned with this case about what the court system is like. It was a civil case. Getting justice for a victim. I'm drawn to that because that's what I do in my everyday life. I fight for victims for justice against defendants. So I was personally drawn to it for that reason as well. And just people were so impacted by it and had so many questions. There was so much great conversation centered around it that's why I really think this was I don't think there's an argument as to what was the most impactful and significant case of the year. I don't think it's close. If I was going to weigh them, this would be more impactful than the other four put together. That's what I would say. That's how heavy of a favorite this was for number one, in my opinion. And all of the people in my community and my life, nobody texted me about, or there was no case people texted me about more than this case.
If you look at the ingredients that make a captivating trial, what are the ingredients? Let's go through them. Big names.
Oh, yeah.
Significant evidence.
Yep.
Bombshell testimony. And the big thing that we forget is, I think we take it for granted these days, is courtroom access. Not every judge and not every court jurisdiction is going to allow cameras in and allow a live feed out. It's still a very modern thing that court cases can be streamed in their entirety to people, I mean, really directly into the palm of their hand. So this case, it had it all, especially when you're talking about A-list celebrities and Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. You're talking about there being the controversy, the social impact when you factor in the Me Too movement from years past. And there was just so much to it.
But there's not just social impact in this case.
Right.
There was also legitimate
that's why I'm glad. Yeah.
Absolutely. Legal precedent basically being set by this case. We're seeing more defamation lawsuits filed by celebrities. We are seeing judges like Hunter Carroll cite Adam Waldman, Johnny Depp's words being taken as his client's words, as his agent. When we're dealing with the Petito laundry case, it's already being set there. We're seeing these lawyers become superstars, and that's something, that makes for a good court case, is these either high-powered or well-versed lawyers that we had in this case as well. We also had an unknown result, right? That's why people love sports. We never know who's going to win. Yeah. And a lot, like throughout the Darrell Brooks case, there was not a lot of, to me, I knew who was going to win. But some of these cases have had that, and this one was a big one. We didn't know which way it was going to go. The audience felt that it was pretty strongly tipped in Johnny Depp's favor, but at the end of the day, Johnny Depp actually lost one count as well. So he won on all three of his defamation counts. Amber Heard won on one of her defamation counts with some of the words of Adam Waldman. So I think all of that has made such a big deal. And then when you talk about cameras in the courtroom, not only do some judges not allow it, some judges who do allow it end up disallowing it later, and they're citing this case about zooming in on the parties,
That's right.
about zooming in on certain features and picking apart what people are wearing and how their hair is being done and how that's inappropriate, doesn't add anything to the case, and actually could poison a potential jury pool.
So the 3 other officers in the George Floyd murder, I looked for video and I couldn't find video, and that's when I found the courtroom sketches, because that's how courtroom sketch artists have their jobs, because not every court case is going to allow video in. This one, being able to see Johnny Depp sit on one side of the courtroom and to see Amber Heard sit on the other, and to have people micro-analyze their facial twitches and expressions, moments, the slightest eyebrow raise in that case would send Twitter into a frenzy. I've never seen anything quite like it. When you compare it to some of the biggest court cases, the most mainstream, we'll call them, court cases of all time, O.J. Simpson is undoubtedly up there. Casey Anthony is without question up there as well. And this one has to join it, right? I mean, if
Absolutely.
I'll give this is my favorite part of my job, is I get to ask our audience, if you were putting it on the Mount Rushmore of mainstream court cases where the entire country, really the world, was just magnetized towards it and glued to it and could not miss a moment. We have people in our newsroom at WFLA that could not miss a moment of that trial. Other trials that have that impact on people, what come to mind? I'll ask our audience here now that we have finished out the list. OJ, Casey Anthony, this one, any others that
Trayvon Martin, I think, was pretty big when that one was happening. I'm sure we're missing some pretty big ones. But what's interesting about those 3 officers, their trials were federal. R. Kelly's federal.
Yep, that's right.
No cameras in the federal courtroom. That's never changing, in my opinion.
Yep.
But what's interesting is there more negative or positive ramifications for having cameras and microphones in the courtroom?
Well, I'm a journalist and I'm a reporter, so I'm always, I'm not going to be biased. I'm going to always advocate for camera. I'm big on transparency. Give me courtroom access. I want to know what's going on. I don't want anything hidden from the public. We want to be able to show people what is going on and show how our legal system works.
I agree.
A big part of transparency. So
that's huge.
I will very, very blatantly and very, very clearly establish that I am for courtroom access when it comes to these cases. But I do understand why, look, there's sometimes when you get into extremely sensitive topics where it's just not the appropriate avenue. And I do understand that, but I'm always for transparency to see how our legal system works.
I wonder if there's a way to regulate it more in what happens in the public, because I do have a little bit of that ringing in my head. This is why we can't have nice things, because of what people did with that courtroom access on TikTok, making fun of victims or making fun of witnesses or whatever it may be, making fun of lawyers or judges. And that's inappropriate, and we shouldn't do that. And as a society, that's a problem that we just kind of have generally. But I am for it. The number one reason I'm for it is for what you said, so people can understand what it's like. So they're not scared if they ever should find themselves in a courtroom. It should not be a place where, you don't want to walk in regardless of what your rights are, and you just let your rights get trampled on because you're too afraid of entering into the legal system. Now, you shouldn't enter it for no reason or flippantly. You should have a good reason and only do it when absolutely necessary, but it shouldn't be something that you're so afraid of, like going to the dentist or getting a shot or something like that. Sometimes you need to be in the legal system, and if you do, you shouldn't be afraid of the process. And I think if people saw it more and we pulled back the curtain a little bit, I think that's how they would get more comfortable with the process.
Not so scary.
Right.
I mean, it can feel intimidating to people who aren't in a courtroom very often.
Oh, absolutely.
But
that's why you have a lawyer. And you see the cases, the people that don't have lawyers, how it doesn't really go well for them most of the time. So that's why you need a lawyer to help you with it. We saw that multiple times just this year.
A lawyer,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. Now you do at least.
Folks, we're going to be, let's review one more time our top 5 list now that we have finished Peter's list. Peter, thank you for putting this together for us. Again, this is the top 5 court cases of 2022 as put together by our friend here at WFLA now, Peter Tragos, personal injury attorney here in the Tampa Bay area.